So we're going to get started. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Borough Hall. My name is Tanya Cantlow-Cockfield, and I'm the assistant counsel to Brooklyn Borough President Eric L. Adams. I'm joined by Richard Barrick, who's our Director of Land Use, and Ina Gusenfeld, who is the Land Use Coordinator. There is one item on the agenda this evening. Please note that this hearing is being recorded to comply with the public law for transparency. It will be available for viewing on Borough President Adams' website, brooklyn-usa.org, or on the One Brooklyn channel on YouTube. Again, web users may submit timely comments to Ask Eric at brooklynbp.nyc.gov for Borough President Adams' consideration. Please call the first item and let us begin.
180244 HAK, 180245 ZSK.
These applications submitted by the New York City Department of Housing, Preservation, and Development seeking Urban Development Action Area Program designation for the disposition of 2 city-owned lots on Fulton Street between Downing Street and Grand Avenue, and a zoning special permit for a waiver of the 18 required accessory off-street parking spaces. Such actions would facilitate the development of an 8-story mixed-use building with ground floor commercial retail space and 50 residential units, of which 15 would be permanently affordable, including 10 affordable to households at up to 80% of area median income through the voluntary inclusionary housing program. The building would provide 25 bicycle parking spaces in the cellar. Community Board 2 voted to approve this application on March 14, 2018. I'd like to call Felipe Cortez from HPD. And if you can state your name for the record.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me. All right. First time using one of these. So. Good evening, everyone. My name is Felipe Cortez. I am from the Department of Housing, Preservation, and Development. With me tonight is my coworker Lin Zheng, Director of Brooklyn Planning at HPD, and members of the development team responsible for the 1019 Fulton Street project. As part of the ULURP process, we're very excited to be here tonight with presenting the 1019 Fulton Street to the community. Broadly speaking, the project consists of an 8-story mixed-use building with approximately 50 mixed-income rental units and ground floor commercial retail space. Out of the 50 mixed income rental units, approximately 15 of the units will be permanently affordable. I will start the presentation providing an update on the ULURP application, and then I will pass the lead or the presentation to Jacqueline Scarzini from the development team, who will share with us more details about the application. The ULURP application for the project was certified on Monday, February 12, 2018. HPD and the development team are co-applicants. The application also was presented to CB2 Land Use Committee on February 21st, and then presented to the full board on the same month, on March 14. And now we're here with you guys. As mentioned previously, the 19 Fulton Street, the ULURP application is seeking 2 land use actions. The first one is Urban Development Action Area, project approval and designation, and disposition of the city-owned lot located on block 1991, lot 2 and 3. And also, it's seeking a zoning special permit to waive the required parking spaces for the project. As you can see in this, on the tax map on the side, we have the development site on red, the lot 16, which the project will be, the project acquired already some air rights, and the disposition area on green. The city-owned sites, the city-owned land, as you can see, represents, it's only the green part, frame on the green, under the green frame, and represents about 20 to 22% of the total zoning lot. Let's take a look at the project area and the surrounding area. The project area is located between Putnam Avenue to the north, Downing Street to the east, Fulton Street to the south, and Grand Avenue to the west. Around the project area, we can see some residential uses and commercial uses. Commercial uses could be seen mostly on this small strip of Putnam Avenue and also along Fulton Street. The site is located on the eastern part. Let me double check. Yeah, the site is located within the eastern part of the Fulton Street Business Improvement District. The project is located also within a transit zone, so has plenty access to public transit. We know, as you might know, the Clinton-Washington Avenue station, the C train, is a few blocks to the west, and then we have the Franklin Avenue to the east. The project area also has access to buses. The B25 and the B26 run right in front of the project area, and the B46 runs around Clason Avenue. The Long Island Railroad is also located within the surrounding area of the project. Let me see, and then right in front of the project area is a parking lot owned by the Bethel Seventh-day Adventist Church. And also, we can see that there is a city bike dock for about 30 bikes. The project, as you can see, is we have the vacant land in front. We have the parking lot. We are very excited to be working with the development team in the 1019 Fulton Street, as the project will allow us to develop much-needed affordable housing in a vacant, underutilized city-owned land, and also privately owned land that has been vacant for about 23 to 25 years. The project is also important for us because it will allow the city to activate this part of Fulton Street, which currently is in need of some more like foot traffic and transit, and will provide much needed retail space to, again, activate this part of Fulton Street. And finally, again, the project will allow us to build affordable housing, which is 15 units that will be permanently affordable. And so that's why HPD and Brooklyn Planning, we're very excited to be working with the development team. Now, I will pass this presentation to Jacqueline, who will share with us more details about the project.
Thanks, Felipe. My name is Jacqueline Skirnchi of Ackerman LLP on behalf of Fulton Star LLC, the applicant. I'm joined here today by Daniel Kimia of Fulton Star, as well as Jayita Goswami of Best Development, and also Philip Kellogg of Fab, the Fulton Business Alliance. So I just want to go back to this slide, which shows the development site, and give a little bit of site history here. So the reason that this site has remained vacant for almost over 20 years is because each of these tax lots, we have 9 tax lots here, were individually owned. The 2 city lots were owned by the city, lots 2 and 3, and then each of the lots highlighted in red were individually privately owned tax lots. And as you can see, a lot of them are very shallow, narrow lots. So developing them individually didn't really work out, and that's why they've remained vacant, and this area has been in need of revitalization for some time. The air rights lot that is behind the development parcel is a one-story retail building. Without acquiring the development rights from this site, the project would not be able to be built full on the lots. Otherwise, we would be required to have a 30-foot rear yard and have a very shallow building that wouldn't facilitate the development that we have here today, which is 50 dwelling units with 15 permanently affordable housing units. And I also wanted to highlight that without the city-owned property, you don't have this continuous site, which allows you to have a retail that anchors on both Fulton Street and Downing Street, wrapping around the corner and really changing this whole intersection and stretch of Fulton Street, which is consistent with what Fab has been advocating for along this Fulton Business District, and it allows for quality retail space on the ground floor that really activates this area. So as Felipe stated, we are seeking 2 ULURP actions. This is not a rezoning. It is a disposition of city-owned property, which is 2,300 square feet of the total zoning lot area, which is approximately almost 12,000 square feet, and a zoning special permit to waive the required parking pursuant to one of the new ZQA parking waivers in 74-533, where if 20% of the residential floor area is, 20% of the units are income restricted, you can ask for a discretionary parking waiver through city planning. And there are 3 specific findings that we have to meet. The first is that that the parking waiver will facilitate the development, and we need to consult with HPD to meet this finding, which the applicant has done. It's critical here to have the parking waiver, and in speaking with the community board, it seemed like parking is not really a big issue in this neighborhood. We're very close, we're in the transit zone. We are directly across from the city bike docks. There are multiple bus lines and subway lines within the vicinity. And without this parking waiver, we would be required to have parking ramps on Fulton Street and Downing Street, which would greatly impact the retail space. Also, the parking would have to be located on the ground floor, which we haven't done borings yet to see if we could even do, the parking would really kill this project here, because we would either have to have the parking on the ground floor, which would lose some of the retail space, or in the cellar, which would require curb cuts that would also break up the continuous retail frontage and change the pedestrian experience for people walking along Fulton Street. Also, having the parking ramp would reduce the retail space, which we have approximately 6,900 square feet. And that would allow for multiple retail tenants, which we've heard from the community is what they want here. They want more affordable retail space that is smaller for local tenants. They don't want one big retail tenant here, and the developer has been willing to work closely with the community, and that's why we've been working directly with Phil Kellogg on this issue, and that is the justification for the parking waiver. The other 2 findings are that B, we will not cause traffic impacts, which our EAS determines that we were well below the thresholds for triggering a traffic impact here. And then the other is that we would not have adverse impacts on other businesses within the area and parking resources within the area. And we did a study, and there are multiple, I believe there are 6 other parking facilities that people can, if they were to drive to the site, they would have adequate parking available. So just to walk you through, these are the existing conditions. As I mentioned, it's vacant and in need of revitalization, so it doesn't stay like this for another 20 years. And that's why this project has been really a true partnership with HPD and private developer to redevelop this site. And Felipe walked us through it, but the project will be a new 8-story development, 50,121 square feet, 6,094 square feet of ground floor retail along Fulton Street, and also it wraps around on Downing Street. 50 residential dwelling units, 15 units will be permanently affordable, which is 30% of the total, and no parking is proposed, as I stated, because we are seeking a waiver here. The affordability levels for the project were developed in conjunction with HPD, and the mix is that 5 units will be at 70% AMI, which here we have it at the marketing band, which is 67%. 5 units at 77%, and then 5 units at 120%, and this is the unit distribution that we have and income qualifications and the rent based on the 2017 rents, because we don't have the 2018 rents yet available. The amenities for the project are laundry rooms on each floor, recreational room in the cellar accessible to all tenants, outdoor patio space on the roofs, and 25 bicycle parking spaces. This is the site plan that shows the full zoning lot and how the building is able to be built full due to the fact that the lot 16, that it is one zoning lot and the development rights from lot 16 were acquired by the developer. And the ground floor plan, which shows an open retail space, but again, we're looking to separate these retail spaces into smaller spaces for each of the tenants that we end up being able to market the space to. Any questions?
Yes, we have a few. So the first question, regarding the intended affordable housing units, what is the qualifying income range for prospective households based on household size? What are the anticipated rents based on the number of bedrooms? And what is the distribution of units by bedroom size? And the last part of this question is also, what guarantees that the 5 non-voluntary inclusionary housing units will be rented as permanently affordable housing?
Sure. Okay, so back to this slide. So the studios, at 70% of AMI, we'll have 2 studios, which will range from approximately $44,756 to $51,188, and the rent is $904 a month. At 70% AMI, we'll have 2 one-bedrooms, ranging from $44,756 to $57,553. And I can give you a copy of this presentation. Actually, I provided it by electronically, so if you don't want to write all of these numbers down, we can provide that to you. And the rent is $1,142 a month. And we will have 1 2-bedroom at 70% AMI that ranges from $51,188 to $63,918, and the rent will be $1,380. Do you want me to continue going through each of them, or for 80%?
No, I think we have it in the presentation. Actually, I'd be curious about the last question about what guarantees that the 5 non-voluntary inclusionary housing units will be rented as permanently affordable housing.
Sure. So those units, I can speak for, it'll be a disposition agreement with HPD, but HPD probably would be best responding to that question.
Thank you.
So I believe, hi, this is, my name is Lynn Zhang. I work with Felipe at HPD. So this project would likely have two regulatory agreements, one under the inclusionary housing program, and the other is just like our regular affordable housing regulatory agreement that, you know, it would also go with the land disposition agreement as well. That would all be defined there, that these would be permanent affordable units. It runs with the project and the land, yeah.
Okay, so the next question. Given community concerns regarding displacement and the prevalence of rent-burdened households, please identify what marketing strategies, such as designating one of this community's affordable housing nonprofits as the affordable housing administering agent, will be used in the tenant selection process in order to ensure that the highest level of participation from Community District 2. And then there's a second part. I'll let you answer that.
Okay. So Daniel actually has been working with, it used to be Pratt Area Community Council back in 2012 when this project first started, and now it's become Impact Brooklyn, and they're familiar with the site. They're a local administering agent based here in Brooklyn, and they will come up with the marketing strategy, but we will look to work with your office and Community Board 2 in our outreach to make sure that the community is very well informed about when the lottery will be online and how they can apply through Housing Connect, the city's application website, and also just in terms of like how to fill out the applications, and Impact Brooklyn has a lot of experience doing this work.
Okay. Yeah, actually, that was the second part about would such marketing strategies start off with a financial literacy campaign to assist area residents in becoming lottery eligible?
We would definitely be willing to work with them on putting together a financial literacy campaign.
The third question. The Fulton Area Businesses Organization has long advocated for the strengthening of this section of Fulton Street. What ensures that this development would have a primarily non-residential ground floor? Would the street facade be consistent with the design requirements of the Special Enhanced Commercial District zoning text?
Okay, so I will go to our proposed rendering. While this is not a rezoning and we're not seeking this special enhanced commercial district on our site, we do recognize the importance of these design guidelines and how they really do enhance commercial corridors like Fulton Street. And, you know, in working with Fab in identifying that having transparent space at the ground floor, having a qualifying ground floor here, we have, I believe it's a height of 15 feet at the ground floor. That is, it really activates the streetscape for people walking by, and this, you know, in this area, retail is the proper use for the ground floor. The market would dictate this. There is no specific mandatory requirement that retail space be located here, but I think that, you know.
So would you be willing, and would HPD be willing, in terms of the land disposition agreement, to have it set forth that the entire frontage would be consistent with these plans that show the retail as well as fenestration consistent with the special enhanced commercial districts?
That would be an additional action that we're
not an additional action. The land disposition agreement is not subject to ULURP, right? If you get the disposition approval, what is stated within the land disposition agreement is whatever is worked out with your team and with HPD to get that writing in there to allow the understanding of the retail to be what we're going to see. That
You know,
becomes a legal mechanism.
Yeah, I think we can look into that, but we're not committing to having mandatory retail. You know, the community facility space could also be located on the ground floor.
And special enhanced commercial districts, they allow for community facility use as well. So it's the idea of having the non-residential space consistent with the drawings you're showing.
Okay.
So we're not trying to limit you to use groups 6 through 9. You could also have use groups 3 and 4, but the idea is that you don't change your mind and, oh, you know what, we'll put in a different floor plan and we'll put residential down there.
Okay. I mean, with the parking waiver, we will be tied to this site plan. So if we were to go back to city planning, we would have to have another discretionary action to change the site plan. Just so you know, we are.
So if the site plan is tied to the action, then that becomes the legal mechanism, as long as the waiver is approved by city planning, although it still doesn't hurt the consideration of the land disposition agreement to also reinforce that.
Sure. We will definitely look into that. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I think our intention here is to always, to activate the ground floor. So the intention is always to put in some active uses, retail and other, commercial uses. But I'm not sure we would memorialize this aspect of the project in the LDA. Just because, if it can't happen, right, the market doesn't, if you're not able to find a tenant, we just don't want to lock ourselves in, I think. That's.
But again, if you're building the plans from day one, it's on the floor plan. So if the floor plan shows a commercial space, if the Schedule A says
But
whatever,
let's say we build this space and you can't find a tenant, so you're effectively, it's going to be vacant anyway. So I just think I think what Jacqueline said, it makes a lot of sense. If it's not going to be retail, then the site plan will change, and in either case we would have to go back for additional approvals.
well, it would also be inconsistent with the special permit adopted by the City
Right.
Planning Commission to.
But I'm not sure if, HPD has in previous projects have memorialized this type of
You had a few
use
months.
in our LDAs. So
months
I
to-
want to leave it just, like with the housing and the affordability, that is sort of our bread and butter. But I think on the commercial stuff, we'll discuss it internally, but I don't think we're open to committing to any of that.
Well,
right
you have
now.
several months between now and the council. We weren't asking for a commitment today, but look at that as a pathway.
Okay.
And we mentioned about the floor plan. Would the elevation and the fenestration of the floor plan be locked in through the special permit, or is it only the plan itself?
The special permit's tied to the site plan and the zoning calculations, so not the specific fenestration.
So-
However, that would impact, because we have dormers here, so that would impact if we change the facade, it's going to impact our floor area calculations. So we don't plan on changing the facade or,
But then the land disposition going a second issue, not about use so much, but about the fenestration. So take both as two separate pieces.
Okay, we have 2 more questions. The next question is, it is Borough President Adams' policy to promote the use of sustainable and renewable energy resources focused on advancing a sustainable future in Brooklyn. It is also Borough President Adams' policy to promote practices to retain storm water runoff. What consideration has been given, possibly in cooperation with the Department of Environmental Protection, the Mayor's Office of Sustainability, NYSERDA, or NYPA, towards incorporating passive house design, solar panels, wind turbines, blue, green, or white roof covering, permeable pavers, and/or rain gardens?
so in keeping in line with the passive house concept, the developer and also the architect really looked into, they are going to partner with a facade consultant here and focus on making the building as energy efficient as possible, looking at the building envelope and making it as tight as possible with insulation and having very good air ceilings. So that was the main focus on energy efficiency for the building and not losing heating or cooling depending on the season. In terms of energy here, because of the site plan, sorry, I'll look at this slide. We have a rooftop terrace here, which I think is a great amenity for all of the residents to use. And when we looked into solar for the site, the architect and the owner realized that solar wasn't really going to provide enough return for this development. So it wasn't really where they should focus their efforts. That's why they are looking at this facade consultant and focusing on energy efficiency and making sure that all of the lights are LED lights throughout the building, energy efficient appliances that are Energy Star rated, and in terms of having that solar was not really a feasible option here. But in terms of stormwater runoff you were talking about, we will look into providing permeable pavers. I mean, that's something that we would have to work with DEP when we go for our sewer connection permit. But at this point, we haven't developed that plan yet. But we'd be willing to look into it.
And so regarding the rooftop, given that the bulkheads will be obviously higher than the terrace, they still provide an opportunity. You may want to look at that as a possibility, you know, even a limited amount of coverage on the bulkheads.
Okay.
And our last question, it is Borough President Adams' policy to maximize quality jobs, good quality jobs for Brooklynites. Please outline what steps will be taken to ensure the inclusion and participation of minority and women-owned business enterprises and local business enterprises in the process of construction on this site.
So it's very important to the developer to hire locally and also to hire minority and women business-owned enterprises. In fact, already the architect for the project is a minority-owned business enterprise, and moving forward, they will look to hire additional local contractors as well as minority and women-owned business enterprises. And we look to both your office and as well as the council member for additional suggestions on groups that we can partner with. In the past, we've partnered with small business services, local workforce ones, but we would also appreciate your recommendations.
So again, given that you have the land disposition agreement, since although I assume HPD is not putting in the financing they typically do on HPD sites, where it now has triggered a certain level of participation based on receiving a certain amount of city dollars, that perhaps the land disposition agreement could incorporate a model for standards that might be equivalent to what HPD uses as standards for its jobs and its providing financing. So it's something to think about over the next few months as well.
Okay, we'll look into that. But just for the record, this project is not seeking any
Correct.
public subsidy.
So that concludes our questions. We did receive one speaker slip. Philip Kellogg, Executive Director of Fab Alliance bid.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on this subject. The Fab Alliance, or the Fulton Area Business Alliance, is the business improvement district on Fulton Street in Fort Greene and Clinton Hill. And since our inception as an organization in 2009, a top economic development goal and priority of Fab's has been the transformation of these vacant lots between Grand and Downing into a mixed-use development that includes ground floor commercial uses. Fab supports this ULURP application. For the city to be able to leverage these two small vacant lots to generate units of affordable housing beyond what is possible on lots 2 and 3 alone, plus dynamic ground floor commercial activity along Fulton Street all the way to the corner of Downing would be a big win for Fulton Street, the neighboring businesses, and residents. Fab also supports the request for the ULURP application to waive the requirement for off-street parking. One of the amazing things about Fulton Street is how well served it is by mass transit, and that was pointed out earlier. And perhaps most importantly, accommodating off-street parking in this project, because of the site limitations, would decimate the ground floor commercial space opportunities and negatively impact potential benefits for the project to host businesses that best serve the community. In many, many conversations with the developer over the years and in public meetings, the developer has been very supportive of these goals and the vision for the ground floor retail space to be activated in a way that benefits the community as well as the residents above. Fab's goals include having a variety of small businesses that will serve the community instead of one large chain or a single bank or a big box store that dominates an entire block. Fulton Street is a vibrant collection of independent businesses that reflect and serve the community, and these small businesses are one reason people live here. Every effort should be taken to maintain that feeling. And it was touched on earlier, we are interested in seeing some of this codified in some way if possible. We've had great conversations and discussions, and I think we're all on the same page, but it'd be great if the Borough President was to support this ULURP application, which we urge him to do, to include in his recommendation components that will help make sure that these goals are met. We look to the enhanced commercial district that was created for Columbus Avenue and Amsterdam Avenues on the Upper West Side of Manhattan in 2012 for guidance. Excuse me, that was 2002, I believe. Some ideas to consider and discuss putting into the documents is stipulating a minimum number of the ground floor commercial units, perhaps place limits on the frontage of any one establishment. Ensure the maximum square footage for any one commercial unit may not exceed, say, 2,000 square feet, as one discussion point. Small businesses in this stretch of Fulton Street need additional support. A realistic cap on rent increases of no more than 3% a year is the kind of number that is sustainable for small businesses. And below market commercial rents, perhaps for the first 5 years, would be something that would be very important as this area is in transition. And that would help the small businesses that are looking to locate on Fulton Street. And we would also like to ask that there be limits on chain stores. And I know that definition is not necessarily etched in stone, but to have that conversation, while we still want to encourage the many Brooklyn entrepreneurs that are growing and expanding and opening new locations, but to find that sweet spot. And finally, this is another thing we've talked about, which could be very dynamic for the development, is arts and cultural uses. We would very much like to see something happen where on this part of Fulton Street it would help with the development as well as the neighborhood, and ask the Borough President to explore options for stipulating that a smaller commercial unit perhaps be made available for nonprofit cultural and arts organizations, maybe at a reduced rent so that they could stay in the neighborhood and stay in Fort Greene and Clinton Hill. Finally, Fab enthusiastically supports this ULURP application, and we look forward to seeing it come to life, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
No questions, thank you. Okay, so the hearing on this item is now closed. Thank you for participating in the public hearing. Borough President Adams will review the application we heard today and will soon submit his recommendation to the City Planning Commission. Borough President Adams would like to take this opportunity to remind you that the City Planning Commission will hold a public hearing on this item. The hearing is now adjourned. Borough President Adams would like to remind those viewing on the website that timely comments can be submitted by email to askeric@brooklynbp.nyc.gov.